Welcome into the crossover. Brandon Kravitz, Mike Bianchi, where the irresistible force meets the immovable object. What's up, Mike?
Going science on me there. Wow.
I actually got that from WrestleMania 6 when the Ultimate Warrior took on Hulk Hogan, but I appreciate the confidence you have in my science acumen.
Real quick, this morning I was on YouTube and I came across when we presented UCF the national championship trophy at their celebration after the 2017 season. And one of the things, I introduced you as the co-host of the show, and I go, "You went to UCF," and he's used his UCF math skills to figure out why UCF is the national champions. You go, "Yeah, here's the math. 13-0.
Yeah, that's right. Equals national champions.
Yeah,
and the place went wild.
Yeah, they did go wild. Yeah.
Oh, man, that was highlight of my career, Mike. Thanks for bringing me up on the stage for that.
That was awesome.
I want to get us going with something that I know that you have at least been stewing on over the course of the season, because it's not like this is anything new, but now that we're down to the final 8 teams in the NFL, it feels like we've put a magnifying glass on a position that had been given up on. I'm curious if we can get an official update on the running backs are a dime a dozen take, a quick checkup on some of the guys that are right now running wild across the NFL that are still in the playoffs. Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, James Cook. You plucking these guys off trees? Where are we at in terms of your thought process? Have you come down off of running backs are a dime a dozen?
No, I still haven't come down off running backs or a dime a dozen, because I'm not the only person that thinks that. Obviously, the New York Football Giants didn't think Saquon Barkley was all that important.
Hold on. You're using your argument is, but the Giants said.
First of all, I realize Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley are, superstar running backs. Where were these other guys drafted? I don't even know. I know Joe Mixon. What was he like? Was he a second rounder?
He went a little bit later. He was a first round talent that punched a woman in college, so he dropped a little bit down the board.
My stance hasn't been that running backs aren't important. I just think that my stance has always been you're crazy if you draft a running back in the first round, because you can always find running backs. Yes, I do still think they're a dime a dozen. Now
Jahmyr Gibbs was the first round pick, and Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley were high price ads in free agency. That is the opposite of dime a dozen. That's an investment.
Okay.
In these guys. So I guess rather than picking on you, let me ask this a different way. Why do you think, because you're obviously wrong, why do you think we've seen things reverse course in that regard? That we've seen running backs, because when you develop this take, you and I would argue about it all the time, but you were kind of right at the time. It was a lot of these like James Whites of the world that were running for the New England Patriots. Now we've seen things kind of reverse back in the other direction where the running back position is valuable. Do you have any theory as to why we're starting to see things, the pendulum is shifting, so to speak?
Theories as to why that's happened. Well, one thing I think it's the teams that are involved here. First of all, I think Baltimore under John Harbaugh have always been a somewhat hard-nosed football team. And, the Harbaughs, Jim and John, like to run the football. I think that has something to do with it. Philadelphia, it's not just Saquon Barkley as to why Philadelphia is running the ball. They have probably, you know better than this, I think that they have the best offensive line in football. So, it's conducive to running the ball. And if you want to win in the playoffs, especially in the cities that they're in, you need to be able to run the football. That's the only theory I can come up with, quite frankly.
Not bad. I don't mind it.
So, speaking of the NFL, speaking of the Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills playing this week. A lot of talk. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, obviously. Let's project ahead, all right? Which of these two quarterbacks is under the most pressure to win the Super Bowl?
Ooh, that's a tough one because it feels about dead even right now. But I'm going to say that it's Lamar Jackson because this felt like a step back in the team building around Josh Allen this year. And if I had an NFL MVP vote, he would get it. He dealt with a lot less and was able to still keep his team where they are. The stats back it up. He carried this team to be one of the best in the NFL, and they still are undefeated at home as we head into the weekend. James Cook is a good running back. I don't think we view James Cook as a full-blown star. They did add Amari Cooper at the deadline, but they went into the season with a rookie wide receiver in Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir as his top guy. You know, they moved off of Stephon Diggs and said, make it work, Josh, and he did. So if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, I feel like he could turn to management and say, I need more. Whereas Lamar Jackson, what does he say? They got him Derrick Henry. And he's won multiple MVPs at this point. So I think if Lamar doesn't break through, he's running out of excuses.
Maybe I would choose Josh Allen for this reason. Josh Allen isn't just, carrying his own expectations on his shoulders. He's carrying the expectations in the history of an entire franchise in a city on his shoulders, because Buffalo's never won a Super Bowl. They're considered, the Super Bowl losers because they're 0-4 in Super Bowls. I just think Buffalo and that fan base is so hungry for a Super Bowl that Josh Allen needs to deliver, or they may never get one. So that would be my reasoning.
No, that's when you factor in the Buffalo side of it, the Ravens have multiple Super Bowls at this point. So I guess if you talk about it from the fan base perspective, you're probably right. I think from the national view of those quarterbacks in particular, Josh Allen not given a lot going into the season. He made a lot of chicken salad out of a lot of chicken scratch. This is I have an appetizer question that leads into the main course question. One is, I'm sure you've seen by now, Tim Tebow and his wife will be having a baby. And I'm wondering if you have reached out to see if they are naming the baby a little baby Bianchi.
I do love me some Timothy Richard Tebow. I still say he's going to be president of the United States someday. Hell, I wish he was president of the United States right now. But that's beside the point. No, they have not reached out to me just yet, but I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they will. Mike Vick, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban headed to the 2025 College Football Hall of Fame. They headline the class. In your lifetime of covering college football, which I think goes back to leather helmets, tell me where each of these guys rank off the top of your head per their spot in college football. So Mike Vick at quarterback and those two coaches. Now that might seem like a loaded, convoluted question, but I'm thinking that they're pretty high on the list. Off the top of your head, won't hold you to it, but where do you have these guys ranked per their position in college football?
Is easy. Nick Saban's easy. He's at the top of the list. He's the greatest college football coach of all time. He won 7 national championships at a time when there was supposed to be more parity in college football because of scholarship limitations and all of that. So it's easy. Urban Meyer, I brought this up on our show. If Urban Meyer doesn't burn out at Florida, I don't know that Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach in college football history. It might have been Urban Meyer because he was on his way at a relatively young age he won 3 national championships as it was, 2 at Florida, 1 at Ohio State. If he doesn't, again, burn out at Florida, who knows what he accomplished. I think Urban Meyer, if you just take the morals clause out of it and all of the ethics and all of that, if you're just taking greatness and winning into the equation, I think Urban Meyer is probably top 5. I'll go top 5 coach of all time.
Yeah.
He won national titles at 2 different schools. He probably would have won one at Utah if they'd have had a 12-team playoff back then. He took Utah to an undefeated season. He's the one who made Utah what they were. He won everywhere he's been. Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, Ohio State. He has the highest winning percentage of any coach since 1965. He's got a higher winning percentage than Nick Saban. So he's top 7. Michael Vick, man, I don't know where I would put him. I'll say this about Michael Vick. He's the guy, he and his coach, Frank Beamer, who elevated Virginia Tech, which was, quite frankly, nobody thought about Virginia Tech in football. Nobody's thought about Virginia Tech as a football school before or since Michael Vick. Okay. So, in that respect, he's probably, he didn't win the Heisman or anything like that. So it'd be hard to put him top 10, but he's a trailblazer, certainly at his school.
Yeah, I think that top 10 range is kind of would be the high water mark for where anybody could have Mike Vick. But as far as just overall impressiveness when he was on the field, I think that's what gets him into that conversation.
All right, last one, Mr. Magic, Mr. Magic radio broadcaster. I contend, and I'm probably overreacting to the Magic getting clobbered by the Milwaukee Bucks. All right, they're last in the league in three-point shooting. They're last in the league in points scored. They're last in the league in three-point shooting percentage. If they don't improve their shooting at least moderately, I think they're a one-and-done playoff team. But I want to present a trade scenario that Mark Daniels presented to me, and I'll give it to you. It's outlandish, I know, but the Golden State Warriors are struggling right now. They might not even make the playoffs. There's been talk that maybe Steph Curry, they could get a lot for Steph Curry in a trade. If you were the Magic and Steph Curry was open to it, would you trade? Would you have a package of, I wrote this down, Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, and Anthony Black? Would you trade those pieces for Steph Curry at 36 years old?
Ooh. No, I don't think I would.
What?
I don't think I would. I don't think, what does Steph have left?
Paolo, Franz, can you imagine?
For what? A year, for 2 years? 2 years of Steph Curry?
Yeah.
You're building something to sustain the long term. Is this something Oklahoma City would do right now? The Magic are building towards something that's long and sustainable. I don't need it would be great. I'd celebrate it just like everybody else would. Steph Curry Magic jerseys would be flying off the shelves. It would be super fun. I don't need the sugar high. I like what this team is building right now I don't like the idea of doing that. You know who would like the idea of doing that even less? The Golden State Warriors. It's not the worst return you could get, but if you're trading Steph Curry, if you're telling your fans, hey, Steph is headed out the door, but don't worry, we're bringing back Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black, I don't think that's landing for them. Now, we can have an appreciation for what those guys bring to the table in Orlando. These are just different timelines. These are different thought processes. This doesn't work for either side. This is a terrible trade for the Warriors. This is a terrible trade for the Magic. I don't like it. And obviously they need to address some sort of 3-point shooting, but I don't know that one guy is going to fix everything. The crossover is over.